My name is Joe Murfield. I'm a retired union carpenter. I'm 56 years old. I've been in the trade for 35 years, and I guess this is about construction.
When I was a little girl, I knew my dad was a carpenter. He built things, and that was about all I understood. It wasn't until I was in my teens that I became more aware of him as a person, with a history that encompassed more than just being my dad, and more than just building things.
Getting into carpentry was kind of by accident. I always wanted to farm and because of the fact that we were a very small farm, there was no real room for a full-time position. My Uncle Howard got me into the apprenticeship program, and I started out driving a truck, running after material, that type of thing, for a couple months. And then the height of the season, I guess you'd call it, got there, and they needed help getting concrete pours ready. So I basically became a laborer. Apparently, I did a decent enough job of it that Howard asked me if I was interested in an apprenticeship. And I told Howard at that time, I said, I'll take the apprenticeship, but I won't guarantee you that I'll finish it, because if I get a chance to farm, I'm going to go farm.
I don't think farming ever really worked out for my dad. Maybe it would have, but he's the type of guy who sees things through, either through dedication or through stubbornness.
So I started my apprenticeship. I worked with Hildebrand for 3 years of my apprenticeship, and then things got slow. So I took the opportunity to go on to a larger company and work out of the union hall.
As I grew up, I became more aware of my dad's actual day-to-day life. He didn't just build things, he sacrificed. He carried 70-pound bundles of roofing shingles up ladders in the middle of the Midwestern summer heat. He swung sledgehammers to drive stakes and regular hammers to pound nails. He physically exhausted himself every day.
The hall called me and said that they could send me out to this hospital job. So I went to the hospital and went to work for Tom Whitehouse, who was a foreman at that time. I worked there for 2 weeks, and he came up to me one day and said, Joe, he says, I got a good job for you. He said, be out at Alcoa. It was in August, hotter than heck, and it was over the remelt plant. And what they were doing is they were replacing the roof. Well, the tar pits would send that acidic smoke blowing in your face. The 2x6 tongue and groove fire treated, it's treated with a salt solution. So if you got a splinter in your finger or in your hand, it was like throwing salt in the wound. We got done with that, and we had to pour slabs. You had to cut wooden stakes and drive them into this gravel. And I stayed at Alcoa for over 2 years with Jerry and Dick. And I asked them one time, I said, why'd you keep me? And Dick told me, he says, because you could cut stakes and you could drive with a sledgehammer. It was stuff you picked up on the farm.
When I was in high school, my dad started teaching apprentices at the carpentry school.
They needed teachers, and I needed to make some extra money. I taught first-year apprentices for 4 years, blueprint reading, basic carpentry skills. The guys would work all day out in the field, and then they'd come to the apprenticeship school after work and spend another 4 hours with me. And you get in that nice warm classroom, and the first thing you want to do is take a nap. So you had to make sure you had their attention. Some days we teach, and some days we build character.
While Dad taught me many basics, like how to swing a hammer, use a level, and fix general things around the house, he couldn't really pass his trade down to me. It wouldn't have been a good fit. He did, however, pass it down to my cousin Josh.
Josh is my nephew. When he was a senior in high school, his mother was quite concerned about what was going to become of Josh. Josh went to the apprenticeship school, took a test. The guy that gave him his written test called me after he passed, and he said, kid must took after his mother, because he sure don't take after you. He's much too smart. So Josh, like I said, Josh earned his position. My company volunteered to take him on as an apprentice because I was the superintendent at the time. And so there's a little bit of that kind of give back, which I don't find a problem with. A man who puts in 35 years ought to have some ability to help a family member follow the trade and follow in their footsteps. I took a lot of pride in being able to help Josh get his apprenticeship.
It hadn't really occurred to me before, but it makes me smile to think of the pattern of passing down the trade. From Uncle Howard to his nephew Joe, and then from Uncle Joe to his nephew Josh.
You know, I did the same thing pretty much that Uncle Howard did.
Dad was right. This is about construction, about building things. But it's not just about building concrete forms or hospitals. It's about building heritage and tradition.
It's a great opportunity in construction if you're willing to put in the time. You build up relationships that last forever, and a respect for the guys that pass the trade down to you. I don't think there's anybody that's retired as a carpenter who doesn't have a great respect for the generations before them that taught them the trade. My whole life, I've been very fortunate.